and welcome to the Tavern Chat Podcast. This is your host, Eric Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR, the main proprietor of the Tenkar's Tavern Log. Before we pop into today's topic, I'd just like to thank my Patreon backers. I've got my new chair assembled. That's why this podcast is going out a little late today. I finished assembling it. It's nice, it's comfortable, and it's not my plus one. It doesn't squeak. And if I want to put the arms up and let my arms drag, I don't like that. But I can, the arms are movable on this chair. It's got the nice open webbing back because I sweat like a fucking pig. And I'd like to not sweat like a pig on my chair. So that's what we have. So, again, I want to thank all my Patreon backers. Your backing allowed me to buy a new chair. I thank you. If you want to back the tavern on Patreon, if you want to support everything that I do, it's tencars-tavern.games/Patreon, Patreon. Now, we are going to go on to today's topic, which is an interview that Jim Cramer from CNBC, not MSNBC. Oy. He spoke with Hasbro chairman and CEO Brian Goldner. And it's an interesting conversation. I'm going to try to get the first 20 seconds or so on this. Let's see if this works.
People are more into Dungeons and Dragons today than ever before. In fact, it's enjoying its best year ever. It's been the last couple of years where it's grown. People are re-engaged with that brand because it's a face-to-face game. It's immersive, and it's a game that people really enjoy playing with one another. We have more new users coming on board, double-digit new user growth.
Double-digit new user growth. Now, that's huge. And I know I've said this before, whether it was on the blog or whatnot, that a rising tide lifts all ships. And if 5e is experiencing double-digit user growth or player growth, I mean, however you want to look at it, that's good for everybody. That's good for the OSR. Theoretically, it's even good for Pathfinder, I guess, but it's certainly good for the OSR because you bring more people into the hobby. There's people that, or back to the hobby, there are people that are going to want to experience old school gaming. And I personally think as a community or as creators, we have to keep that in mind and we have to be ready for it. And we shouldn't put up walls and talk about our exclusivity as the old school gamers. No, we should be welcoming people in, because without new blood in the OSR, it's just going to waste away. But that has nothing to do with the rest of what we're going to be talking about here. Like I said, it's an interesting interview. It's only about a minute 20 long. I'll link it in the post that goes along with this. But it's interesting that a property that was pretty much a gift with purchase, when Hasbro bought Wizards of the Coast, they weren't buying Wizards of the Coast for Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons had its heyday. It was on the decline when Wizards of the Coast sold. Or if not on the decline, it certainly didn't have the mind space it used to have. It didn't have the market share that it used to have. They were buying it for Magic the Gathering. That's what they really were looking for. Now, with 5e, Wizards of the Coast has a really, truly viable version of Dungeons and Dragons. And Hasbro sees that because, and whether or not you look at it, you say, well, Stranger Things, especially the first season, D&D was such a focus that it brought people back to gaming, or if it did, it would be bringing people back to the OSR. Think about it, because they were showing old school gaming. They weren't running with 5e. They were running with old school AD&D. Okay, but it brought back people, or that brought back that mind space that a property like Dungeons and Dragons likes to have. Personally, their owners like to see. So he talks about in an interview that there's going to be a crossover between Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering in the fall. That's again the setting, Magic the Gathering setting being ported over to 5e. And then he talks about how Hasbro, and I guess Wizards of the Coast, wants to create a suite of digital games around both Magic the Gathering and D&D to satisfy the modern gamer. So not just being able to play the stuff face to face, but to be able to play it on your phone, on your iPad, on your computer. Now they're talking about an online, the article says it's an online spin-off of Magic called Arena. There's over 1 million people who signed up to beta test it. And, you got millions of viewers who watch either Magic the Gathering or D&D games being streamed on Twitch. Now, this is an interesting paragraph in this article. He added that Hasbro's goal over time would be to build fantasy games like these into esport properties ripe for global esport competition, as consumers increasingly choose digital gaming over standard tabletop games. Well, now that's damn interesting. Now, I can see how Magic the Gathering, it's a one-on-one game. You can, it's like watching tennis. You do your matches, you get ranked, and you can have your championship. I see how that works for Magic the Gathering. I don't see how it works for D&D. I mean, it could be a spectator sport, but that's your Twitch channels. It's hard to see it in my mind as being something that will be like esports, where you can win money for playing the game. Not saying that D&D shouldn't be profitable. Not saying that people shouldn't be able to run games and charge for the experience. I've known a couple of people, even some that popped into the Wednesday chats, that do this as a side gig. They take it very seriously and they get paid fairly well for running the game. I don't know how it will the playing of it, because you have to remember too, when it comes to role-playing games, part of the enjoyment and part of the charm is the role play, not just the problem solving, not just the dice rolling, not just the luck. It's the role play. That's kind of why they're called role-playing games. And I think that you will suffer some if you try to make the game itself something that you can win or lose. I don't know. Interesting. But like I said, Hasbro has to look at ways to also go with the tide. The tide is rising. And that means also that if you can get D&D out there as somewhat of a spectator sport, and people are watching it, again, you're going to gain more mind space. You're gonna live in people's heads more. It's going to be like the late 80s when D&D was everywhere. And it was awesome. Now, I would love to see something similar with 5e and lift the whole hobby up. I'm just afraid that part of what makes D&D and role-playing what it is could be lost in that transition. Now, it also seems like playing face-to-face, like playing D&D face-to-face or over your devices, you can play D&D over your computers. There are a lot of VTTs. There are a lot of VTTs that are supported directly by Wizards of the Coast, where they sell their stuff in the online markets. Roll20, Fantasy Grounds, and D20 Pro. These are all things, as my phone goes off, these are all things, all ways to experience D&D that isn't necessarily face-to-face, but allows you to telecommute to your game, I guess you could say. I don't know if they're going to be looking to do such with, whatchamacallit, with D&D and a mobile. I don't know if it converts so well to a mobile fashion or a mobile platform. Mobile, there I go. I'm talking like a New York City cop. Your vehicle. Interesting times nonetheless. And of course, Hasbro stock popped nearly 13% on Monday. So maybe that means I have a little bit of money to invest in that stuff. We shall see. All right, folks. I appreciate you stopping by and letting me ramble on today's bit of news. God bless. Stay safe. Roll your dice well. And me in my new chair, we'll see you all tomorrow. Be good. Laters.